Hello and welcome to the Bourbon Bear, and I have a great co-host with me, my man Fretzel. Fretzel, can we get a dough for the people?
Dough!
Oh, indeed. And especially, the Bears being on a bye, we have a great story in the background here that Bondo's bet 6-0 last week. Shout out to Bondo.
Unbelievable.
Did you think he'd have it in him to do this year?
You know what? A blind squirrel finds his nut every so often, but if there's anyone that could do it, it's Bondo.
And talk about a year to have Bondo's bets be covering the Bears every week, with the Bears standing at 4-2. I think they covered, I believe, against the Texans, or maybe they just missed. If you look at the big board here. Yeah, they covered against the Texans. They only lost was week 3, I guess. So realistically, good time to be betting the Bears.
Yeah, and it is crazy to me how down Vegas and ESPN is week over week on them.
I agree with that.
But I think that we're starting to see them turn that corner now. They're not playing the strongest defenses, but that you play who's on your schedule and you have to beat who's on your schedule.
And I'll agree with that. A lot of people are saying, hey, a win against Carolina and Jacksonville's not really good. I mean, the power rankings, they barely moved after destroying Jacksonville in all phases of the game. Let's be real here.
Right.
And a game where you flew to London, you had to deal with a home game that's not a home game, let's be real, but continues the home winning streak. Wouldn't have counted against them if they lost that one. But overall, I mean, the offense is clicking, the defense is looking great. We're feeling good at 4-2. Is this where you thought the Bears would be going into the bye week?
I think seeing them blow that game against Indy was really heartbreaking, but at the end of the day, you can't teach experience. And this isn't Nick Freckel on a philosophical rant, but you have to almost lose those games so you get more learnings out of them down later in the season.
I mean, when you looked at the schedule, though, I think being 4-2 is where I expected the Bears to be at this point of the year. Mainly because it's the NFL, you're going to lose some games. Texans, I had pegged to the loss at the beginning of the year, and
there's always going to be one
outlier, which was obviously that Indy game.
Yeah,
that's realistically what it was. It was a game you should have won. NFL's the NFL. Doesn't always work out.
Yeah, and I think what you're starting to see now with this ball club is turning the corner offensively, where Waldron is listening to his players. They're performing at a much higher level, from running the ball all the way down to Caleb Williams continuing to hit his third, fourth read when his first read's not there, which is the progression that you need to see from your quarterback, especially as we start looking ahead of their schedule. Oh boy, that thing's a gauntlet.
And it's going to be a gauntlet, you're totally right there, but this is actually why it kind of works in our favor to not play the NFC North until it's late in the year. Get these wins, get Caleb developed, get him feeling good in the pocket. The Lions played significantly better than the start of the year, looked great out there, but I mean, you're still looking at the offense trying to find that identity. I mean, your leading receiver right now is DJ Moore with only 31 receptions. So the ball is getting spread out pretty well. Keenan Allen had the 2-touchdown game last week. DJ Moore, 2 touchdowns the week prior. I mean, there's a lot of weapons on this offense, and it's about feeding the people. And people were saying DJ Moore was complaining that he wasn't getting enough looks, then he had a 2-touchdown game. Keenan Allen, they're saying, was washed up, has a 2-touchdown game.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet, that play on the first touchdown was one of the best plays I think Shane Waldron has ever called. Having him in the middle of the field like that on the double delay was insane. Yeah. So I'm with you. Shane is looking better. But what are your thoughts overall on this defense? Because I think it's really good.
I mean, the defense is legit. Now, the one thing that does concern me a little bit is your depth in the front seven, where if a guy like Dexter or a guy like Sweat, if either one of them gets hurt, who's going to step in and be someone that they can always rely on? But I will say this defense is as good as advertised right now.
And we came in, I think it was the first episode we ever did this year, was that this defense would be a top 10.
Yeah.
Statistically, they're maybe even a top 5 defense at this point. Takeaways, sacks, points allowed, they're literally dominating every category. They're not the best in the league by any means, but they're top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they fly to the ball better than any defense that I've seen in the NFL in recent memory. They are one of the better ones out there, and it's everyone complements each other so well, where you have one of the top DBs and DB units in the NFL, and then you have such a good linebacking core all the way down to your defensive line front. I think
I'm going to have a Luke Dohhh moment, so I'll say Dohhh. But Kevin Byard, I was wrong. I did not have the highest expectation to him, but him coming in, filling in Eddie Jackson's shoes, and obviously Eddie Jackson had a couple of bad years toward the end there, but he's looked fantastic out there. That interception he had against Andy Dalton, spinning behind the back, grab it, unbelievable. Yeah. And he's just been a leader for this team in that secondary.
I mean, he brings that experience that they needed in that back unit, because, I mean, Brisker, again, this is his 3rd year in the NFL, but now when you can pair him with someone who's been around the league for a while and is still a high performer, it changes that entire back unit. It really does.
And you mentioned Dexter, too. He's leading the Bears right now, I think, with 4 sacks. Montez Sweat has played phenomenal. The stat book might not show it, but how much attention he's getting is what's clearing up Dexter for that improved role. And he's delivered. Let's be real. Dexter's been fantastic. Zach Pickens, haven't seen a lot of him, I'm not going to lie. I don't know what his role in this team is going to be outside of maybe a depth piece. But the other side of the ball, Darrell Taylor, Walker, I mean, they're still stepping up on their side, too. Though.
I mean, Booker, too.
Booker's got 1 sack. I haven't seen enough of him to tell you he's done great.
A fun fact about the Bears' defensive line, every player on the defensive line has at least 1 sack.
That's awesome.
Which just, shows, though, that, yes, we talk about the lack of depth, but that's because Dexter and Sweat are such game changers where they get so much attention. That if they were to get hurt, there's just no one that can easily slot in. But that defensive line is just showing, like you said, the Sweat numbers, they might not be showing up in the books, but it's because Darrell Taylor is getting...
He's changing what the offense has 100%. To do around you, which is perfect.
Yeah.
And, I mean, what a time to have a bye week. You had Gordon go down with an injury. You had Brisker out. So, I mean, we're going to come into...
Stevenson.
And Stevenson. God, yeah. Right. You're coming into a game that it's not a must-win by any means, but a game you should hopefully win against Washington at Washington.
Yeah.
Having that defense have a week to recover. I mean, obviously Washington had a tough game against Baltimore last week. Almost won that game, by the way. They were in it the whole time.
Yeah.
Got a little banged up though. So knock on wood. If this defense is healthy, what do you think we have expectation-wise? I guess against the Washington offense. That, by the way, this Washington offense is one of the top offenses in the NFL, which is wild because I couldn't name the number 2 receiver, which. I'm Scary Terry, but from there I'm drawing a blank.
Well, don't they have Luke McCaffrey? I mean, I know he might not be number 2 receiver on the team, but I remember they did draft him.
Is he on? Okay, he's on there too, but I mean, still.
Regardless,
rookie number 2 guy, whatever. What are your expectations of the defense going into that game?
I mean, if you have a whole week and a half, 2 weeks to prep for Jaden Daniels, who's a rookie, Eberflus better be pumping some good formulas out there because I think they're really going to ratchet up the pressure. And, I mean, everything that you see on social media about Jane Daniels, how his numbers are really impressive so far. What it also shows, though, is he's really become a 1 to 2 read guy and then gets out of the pocket immediately.
And I want to say, I think we have speed on the edge, and our linebackers are one of the best in the NFL, or some of the best in the NFL. I think they'll be able to contain that run game, which it always terrifies me is when you go against a running quarterback, great coverage in the secondary, all of a sudden he breaks a 20-yard run, which we saw Caleb actually do in the Jacksonville game, which was fantastic. Was very nervous on that slide in the Jacksonville game. It looked like he was going to break his back and I was freaking out. But, again, he's still mobile. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that as we go on. But I do respect that Caleb really wants to be a pocket passer.
Yeah.
He will only use the run as the last option, whereas Jane Daniels will use the run as a go.
Yeah. And one thing I will say to go back to the defense and the depth piece and having this bye week, what's been so beneficial is having guys around such as Jalen Jones and Josh Blackwell. So Jalen Jones, this last week against Jacksonville, he started because Stevenson was hurt. Mm-hmm. If you remember, he's been around for maybe 3 or 4 years, was an undrafted guy. Same with Josh Blackwell. They've been core special teamers for the last 2 to 3 years, but they started a few games 3 years ago, and that's when the Bears were down in the dumps. But that was the experience that they need, where if someone goes down, such as Stevenson, you can rely on someone stepping in and not really skipping a beat much.
Well, we could even say it was Elijah Hicks who subbed at safety.
And Elijah Hicks
Tillman got an interception, was playing great at safety. I just think this defense, the structure of it is built in a way that even if you have to plug and play guys, they'll still be able to step up.
100%.
It's just a great scheme in my mind.
Yes.
So going into that running quarterback, though, I mean, I kind of want to go turn the page to the Bears offense. So the run game is finding an identity, which is good because it was non-existent through, I think, the first 3 weeks, we'll call it. Now you're starting to get DeAndre Swift out in the open, starting to get the screen game a little bit more involved. And the screen game has been working surprisingly well with him, which is awesome to see. And then you have Jalen Johnson, the goal line back type thing. Not Jalen Johnson, I'm sorry. Roshan Johnson,
who
is
the
goal line
dog.
back. Oh, yeah. He'll get you those yards you need, which is great to see. Khalil Herbert, though, does he have a spot in this team?
Mm-mm. This is the last year on his deal. I think if you can get any draft pick for him, you should absolutely take that up because you are not re-signing him. And it's always good to have depth on your roster, but I would say a guy like him who has performed well for the Bears and did what they needed him to do as a 6th-round pick, if you can get a draft pick for him, you should definitely trade him before the deadline.
I don't even know if a trade market is out there for him, to be honest with you. The running back market is such a weird trade, hypotheticals there.
Yes.
But I'm with you. I don't think there's a role for him in this team, except maybe if Swift gets hurt. But, I mean, if he's grinding right now, I'm good with what we have.
Yeah.
But then it comes down to another offensive player, though, that's got a lot of question marks around him, and I'm not even going to talk about Nate Davis because we're done with him. He's not probably going to play another down unless we really need him. But Tevin Jenkins. Yeah. So he's on the final year of his deal. They had told, I guess, Jenkins' agent that they would not be discussing an extension until the bye week. Do you think he's done enough to earn an extension?
I would say so. If you can get him for a respectable rate, and what that means is you have to assume that guy's playing maybe 14 games a year, so he's going to be missing at least 4 because that's just where his history trajectory is. But what I'd also love to know is what is his back looking like? Where if he's sitting out, a few plays here or a game because of his ankle, that's completely different than his back, which is a much more serious and drastic injury. So I think a guy like him who, again, you kind of keep those players in the house that have been here for a long time, so that, and then you reward them.
Yep.
So I think keeping a guy like him around who has shown that he can be one of the better guards in the NFL and continue to progress that way too, I would try and get something signed.
So he was the last, I guess, now that Fields is gone, the last pace player. Pace, not Poles.
Yeah.
Last pace pick. So I don't know if that factors into what Poles wants to do with him. I do think he does deserve an extension. I think he's been reliable when he's healthy. I don't know what the value for his market would be on another team anyway.
Yeah.
But you paid Nate Davis 3 years, $30 million. I wouldn't hate giving him that kind of deal.
Absolutely not.
I would not at all.
Absolutely not. And you know what I will say too is like Nate Davis being a healthy scratch in London. You know what this is now become though is like the O-line depth is actually pretty good.
It's looking good.
You have a guy like Bill Murray who came in against, who was it?
That was against Carolina.
Against Carolina, but like he got some really good reps in and he showed that he can play. You have a guy like Nate Davis who's played NFL games and started NFL games and can be someone who can come in if a Tevin Jenkins gets hurt, and then you also have Ryan Bates who so like your lineup of these O-linemen is actually like turning into something that's almost a net positive for the Bears. Now we'll see how that stacks up once their schedule gets a little bit more difficult, but it's becoming something that is going to be a really good piece for them to lean on.
And I think you bring up a good point there. The difficulty of the schedule will increase, so we'll show the true colors as we get into the harder games. But overall, especially the last 2 weeks, they've looked fantastic.
Yes.
I can't disagree with you, but in the offseason, I think we do have to address the offensive line
100%.
and just get more depth across the board.
Yeah, and you have to get almost a little bit younger, right? Because like Nate Davis is, they should cut him at when the offseason comes upon us, and then center position, like you need to address that because Shelton has been, like, he's been getting better, but he is not your solve for the future. And with a guy like Caleb, who he's your future, like you just need to pair him with someone that you can trust moving into.
And we have no idea what the draft's going to look like. We're too early in the season. But that Carolina pick, I would be all for using it on a center.
Yes.
Like, get the best available center at that spot. Settle this issue. Find a plug and play that can play with Caleb's throughout this, rookie deal.
Yeah.
Make him look good. Protect him. I'm in for that. I think the rest of your picks go to the D-line. And you need an edge technically, but, I mean, the defensive line has looked really good, which is like, coming into the year, everyone said there's going to be a lot of question marks, but with how Sweat's played on the other side, it's looked fantastic. So I know you do want an elite edge rusher out there.
Yeah.
One thing that, I don't even know why the media is talking about this, they're saying the Bears should trade for Max Crosby. I don't think it's realistic, and what you'd have to give up, I don't think it's worth it, but what are your thoughts there?
I mean, listen, if you get Max Crosby for a good deal, 1,000%, I mean, that guy's one of the best in the league, but at the same time, you know that this is not the year, right? Like, you know that this year is all about Caleb learning and progressing each game throughout the entire season. So I would say, listen, don't give up the farm to go get someone right now. You have 2 second-round picks next year. You have a first-round pick next year. So, like, you can really build this team up. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen what Poles has done in the second round in his tenure, like, that's where he hits the ball.
So this is where it goes into the Pace versus Poles arguments. So in 2018, when they made the trade for Khalil Mack, we gave up pretty big draft haul. I think it was 2 first-rounders and a second, I want to say, or something around those lines. That defense was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But Mitch wasn't the guy. And that cost basically Poles and Nagy their jobs.
Yeah.
Because that was too much to give up for a quarterback that they should not have taken number 2 overall. I'm with you in the fact that you should not sell the farm to get him. And I don't think they're out this year. Like, I mean, it's the NFL football, baby.
Yeah.
Like, things can happen.
100%.
The Bears could make a playoff run and you'd be shocked.
100%.
I'm not saying if they lose the first round, I'd be like sadly depressed, but I mean, I'd be proud of them for making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm with you though. Don't sell the farm. Build internally. That's what you have to do.
Well, and the other thing too that you have to think of, if it's not Max Crosby and someone brings up, oh, what about like Zadarius Smith, who's with the Browns right now,
or Myles Garrett, they say Myles Garrett on the block, yeah.
But like think about like how do they see the progression of Booker come into play? Because if you bring someone in, Booker's reps go down even more than what they are right now, and I think we all see a bright future for a guy like Booker. And we're not saying that he is a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby like right now, but if you bring in someone, that means that guy's going to be here for the next 3 or 4 years, which then you also have Sweat that's here for 3 or 4 years. So I think you have to have that steady balance of when is the right time to try and make a move for a specific player, because you invested something into your future in a guy like Booker.
I mean, it was a 5th round pick, though. I'm not going to. I love Booker, and I've been hyping him up in the show, and literally, I'm glad he has 1 sack in the year. I want to see more out of him. But you do need to make the defense, I guess, elite. You
need a game changer.
You need a game changer,
and he is not a game changer right now. But all I'm trying to say though is like, if you're trying to work towards your future and build up the depth within your team and your roster, like you need guys like him to get those reps and to get that playing experience. Where otherwise he would kind of be put on the shelf. Which again, if you're telling me I can get Myles Garrett, but I have to give you 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick, I'm making that up. But like. Then you're almost putting all of your chips in the basket of like the roster you have right this moment, which we know the roster just needs to continue to improve.
Well, and it's even weirder to say, but the trade market this year has been kind of very interesting because of the Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams trades that happened last week. So I don't even know what the value of like a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby would be right now, but I'm with you. I think it's smarter just to stay put.
Yeah.
Build internally. We don't have to go all in this year. Let Caleb have his time to develop. But what's really curious is going to be the fact that Keenan Allen obviously is on an expiring contract. Great game last week. 2 touchdowns. Fantastic throws by Caleb. Fantastic catches by Keenan. Do you think he's got a spot in this team next year?
Man, wouldn't it be awesome to see him come back? Wouldn't it? I mean, like, if you can, I mean, I think it's a tricky question. It really is, because he's going to probably want a heavy coin to come back, and I don't know if the Bears are going to be willing to pay that, because they have a guy in waiting in Roman Odunze.
Yep.
But also, as you've seen, like the more weapons that you have on offense, then it makes it hard for the defense to scheme against. And what the Bears have been doing this year so far is like each week is a new player.
Yep.
Which is the best part of it, because then again, like the defense doesn't know who they need to prep for or how they need to key on certain people. So if I'm Keenan, I would see this as such a great opportunity to stay in Chicago and almost finish my career here. But you're going to have to take somewhat of a hometown discount, in my opinion.
So I'm going to have to ask you to go grab that bottle of bourbon, because I'm going to have some hot takes coming up. Number one, the fact that the NFL trade market for wide receivers right now is at an all-time high. The Chiefs need receivers right now.
Yeah.
The Jets needed receivers. Well, the Jets were more just the connection between Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. But teams are desperate for receivers.
Yeah.
My argument, though, is with taking on Keenan Allen's contract, we get an automatic third-round pick next year if he walks. Compensation.
Yeah. Which we've never seen from the Bears.
That's shocking.
It's so rare to see that stuff.
And I'm saying you do not trade him unless you get a second rounder. Yeah. I think it's worth keeping him the rest of the season, no matter what. If someone does come with a second rounder, I'd be shocked, to be honest with you, but I would take that in a heartbeat. No offense to Keenan, but I think he's going to be a focal point of what a slot receiver is going to be in Caleb Williams' future.
Yeah.
And I don't know when we're going to draft a receiver next year, mainly because I think we focus on the trenches, both sides. But this is good experience for Caleb.
Yeah.
Having a veteran.
That's what I was going to say, is I think he is such a key point to Caleb's development, and such a savvy veteran for just showing the ropes to a guy like Rome as well, that the value that you get from that is so much more important than a 4th-round pick that, like you said, if he just walks after this year, you get a 3rd-round pick. So
exactly.
That's not worth it.
I mean, and Poles is smart enough to know that too. So unless a miracle second-rounder came from like the Chiefs or someone, I'd consider that, because, again, I think the Bears will surprise people this year. I'm with you, though, that probably not the Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
I think we need one more draft class to come in, and then Caleb will be armed and ready to make a big run with this team.
So would you re-sign Keenan?
Unless it was a team-friendly deal, I would not re-sign Keenan, though. I think with that even 3rd-round pick, you'll probably get a fast, speedy slot receiver. no offense to Keenan, he's had a heel issue most of the year. I mean, he looked great last week, but he's been out a couple of games. You can't bank on a 33-year-old receiver in that. I just can't do it.
What would you say is like a team-friendly deal? Would you say like...
So right now his contract, I think he's like $23 million, I want to say.
Okay.
If he drops it down to about 12, I think that's friendly. I would take that. I just don't think you can commit, though, to a multi-year deal is the big thing. And I don't know if he even wants to commit to a multi-year.
Yeah.
He knows where he's at his career. He's made his money. I mean, God, the guy has been fantastic his whole career. So I think he'd be willing to stay with Caleb at a reasonable deal, and I think 12's fair.
Well, I think the other thing you have to take into consideration, too, is they just invested a shitload of money into DJ Moore as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like, then how much money are you going to be putting in your receivers when you know that there are other areas in the offense that are going to have to be addressed, such as the offensive line? Where like you're going to draft guys, but you might have to sign someone in free agency, and same with the defensive line. So like it all comes down to when you look at a circle chart, what position is taking up so much of the salary cap right now during this window with Caleb.
And I love that you bring up the salary cap, because there's one question I have for you on the flip side here on the defense, though. So TJ Edwards, we got him on a great deal.
Yes.
He's our leading tackler right now. He looks fantastic. Tremaine Edmonds had solid moments. He's got a couple interceptions, looked decent, but we were paying him 4x what we're paying TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
Was that a good signing by Pulse?
To get
Tremaine Edmonds.
I mean, I think he's been a gamer so far. And when you look at what you've gotten, because what the flip side was, you keep Roquan Smith, you pay him what the Ravens did, which Roquan Smith is an all-pro.
All-pro linebacker.
Best linebacker in the NFL. But you were able to sign those two for the same investment that the Ravens put into Roquan and have Dexter. Like, I think that is such a good...
Was it Edmonds or Dexter with that second round?
It was Dexter.
Was Dexter, okay.
Yeah. So, like, but you signed TJ Edwards and Edmonds from free agency, and they're getting paid the same amount that alone Roquan's getting paid right now.
I agree with that, and I think the second round pick, getting that as a compensation was worth it. But I think we need to see more out of him for what we're paying for.
We do.
I'm not going to lie. Like I love him. I think at the time the move was made, I'm with you, where getting a second round pick was great, and you're paying basically, you get a second round pick and you're paying the same price. Roquan, though, he's a freaking stud.
Yeah.
Tremaine Edmonds has been lackluster. Let's be real.
No, he has been. I think we all had higher expectations of his performance so far, but I mean, like you said, it also is significantly impacted because TJ Edwards is such a gamer. Like, that guy is always finds the ball, and it doesn't that he overshadows Edmonds, but he has been such a just higher performer than what Edmonds has been so far.
And I think that's what shadows it a little bit, is that the context value of...
Right, because now you have that straight comparison of, we signed both these guys at the same time. One was a sweetheart deal, one was a high-profile player.
Supposed to be your elite middle linebacker, and it's kind of been the flip, but, I mean, again, they're in contract, so... But that's someone you got to look at in the future. We talked about the draft and trading, and like even a free agency signing, how much you have to pay in the contract. But I would take TJ Edwards as a guaranteed, give him a pay raise after this year.
100%.
Keep him locked into this team. He's earned it. Leads this defense.
Yeah.
You have to.
And Chicago guy.
And Chicago. Yeah. What was he? He was north. Was he? Where did he go to high school?
Trying
to remember.
I don't.
I know it's somewhere in north suburbs. So that's just an awesome story in general, though.
Yes.
But turning on to the Bears' future here. So on a bye week, sucks we can't watch Bears football this weekend. It is what it is. Have a pretty relatively easy schedule coming up. Outside of, I think, Washington's going to be a tight game. But you have the Patriots. You've got, I'm trying to remember who.
So you have Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots.
Cardinals.
So those
Cardinals
three
just got destroyed by the Packers. So that's a must-win now.
Yeah.
That becomes, even at Arizona, that's a must-win.
Yeah. I mean, those three are your easiest games, and then you get into what we've been alluding to as the gauntlet.
Yep.
So I mean, I think you have to go 2-1 in that stretch between Commanders, Cardinals, and Patriots.
I agree with that 100%.
3-0 would be lovely.
Oh, that'd be. I'd take 3-0 all day.
Yeah.
But now with the Vikings resurgence being 5-0 right now, they're playing Detroit this week, so it's a win-win for the division because obviously Detroit will fall or the Vikings will fall. Where do you think the Bears end? At the end of the season, I guess, in the NFC North division, it's a big if.
Yeah,
and you're not held to answer, but
I mean, I would say they will finish third or second.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
So what I'm assuming then is either the Packers or the Vikings. They're going to start to lose some of these games coming up, and the Vikings, though, I think they are legit. 'Cause that defense is freaking amazing. But I mean, then you're on the shoulders of Sam Darnold. We've never seen Sam Darnold do it for a full season, so it's not to say that he's a new man now. But I would assume that the Packers and the Vikings, that a few years ago the Bears started 4-1, or 5-0.
Yep.
Remember that? And then the wheels fall.
Tom Brady's famous fourth down.
Right. And it's as we've all learned, it's a long season. It's a long season. So I think we're going to start to see some of those teams not fall off completely, but just come back down to earth as week over week.
I'm giving you my hot take here. I think the Vikings finish third in this division.
Yeah.
I think the Bears take second. I think Detroit will take the crown. Aiden Hutchinson's injury kind of complicates my theory. If he was healthy, I think the Lions take first, the Bears take second. I actually have the Packers in fourth, but Jordan Love still looks good. And it sucks as a Bears fan to say it. We're done with Rodgers, but they get friggin' Jordan Love. And he's looked fantastic. I was really banking on, when he was injured after week 1, that they would lose those 2 games with Malik Willis, but they won them.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It does suck. But you know what, though? I think Jordan Love is, he's fine. I don't think he's a godsend. I mean, in these last few games, he has shown opportunities that he's not the best quarterback of all time.
He had 4 touchdown passes last week.
He also had 3 interceptions.
True.
So I think it's easy for someone like him to put up crazy numbers when he sucks in the first half, and then they know that they're throwing the entire time.
Well, and that was the same thing against the Vikings. The Vikings were up, I think it was 28-7 at one point, and then they came back, but the Vikings held on.
Yeah.
We need to beat the Packers.
Yeah.
We just need to beat the Packers. I'm going to lose my mind if we don't beat the Packers.
Are you going to be boots on the ground for Bears-Packers this year on the 17th?
I'm going to try it. I've never been to Lambeau Field, so spoiler alert, Bondo, if you watch this episode, we might be going to Lambeau for your Christmas gift.
So that's the final game of the year.
Yeah. That's electric. That one's going to be... But again, it's too early to say that's going to be holy cow, though. It might be... I mean, right now, the NFC North has the most point differential of every division. It's crazy. It's insane how good we are.
Yeah.
And the NFC North, again, we're going into the gauntlet phase at week 10 or 11, wherever we play Packers. I'm not sure.
We play the 17th, so it's week 11.
Week 11 against the Packers, starting that gauntlet.
Yeah.
Which, and I do not root for injuries in the NFL, but the Lions losing Aiden Hutchinson gives Caleb a little more time. Let's be real. That's a lot more time for Caleb.
Yeah.
So I think when we get to that gauntlet, as long as we stay healthy, we've got a good shot of splitting the division. And at that point, you're going to be the 10-7 team I called earlier.
Yeah. I mean, listen, so right now they are 4-2, right? So now 4-2. They have Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots. If they were to go 3-0, or let's just say 2-1 for shits and giggles.
Let's do 2-1 just to be realistic. So there's NFL. It's the NFL.
You're 6-3 then, and then you start to get into Packers, Vikings, Lions, 49ers, Vikings, Lions. And then you end with
that's such a wild ending.
Seahawks, Packers, which just seeing the Packers, Vikings, Lions, 49ers, Vikings is just, you don't get a break from a tough defense because the Vikings fly all around the ball. 49ers, we all are well aware of them. And then you go right back to the Vikings and the Lions. That's just...
It is a lot.
I do want to give a shout out to the Lions fans out there because their offense is fun to watch.
How much is this you're married to a Lions fan?
0. 0. But, just watching them beat up on the Cowboys last weekend and just watching them and their offensive line, because you can see that's where the team is built. They're a good ball club.
No, they've done good in the trenches. I agree, and that's how you build a good team.
That is. That's where the game's won.
What I'll say though is, especially when you get to the heat. I guess the heat. It's the best part of the schedule. It will be after that Week 11 game, but the bye being now, I think is better for the Bears.
100%.
Calibrate. You feel good right now. Don't get cocky. Get healthy. But that gauntlet's without a bye is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I like the bye being this. I guess the moral I'm saying is I like the bye being earlier, just so everyone's back in form. You have to go 2-1 these next games.
Yeah.
What do you have wanted to buy later? I guess what I'm asking you.
So I go either way of the coin. I like it right now, but also your momentum is high because the offense has been performing at a very high level week over week, but also you have some key injuries at key positions that once you start getting into the more difficult part of the schedule, you're going to need those guys back. So I think being able to kind of recharge the battery and prepare yourself for what's going to become 8 weeks of just straight, difficult games week over week.
Well, and I think it was Detroit had a bye in week 4, so they had it there super early, and now they're going to be pretty battered. I don't know when the Packers bye is. I don't think it happened yet. The Vikings, the Vikings had a bye in week 5. Week 5. Yeah. So, I mean, most of the NFC North is going to be kind of in the same boat. It's going to be like we're all banged up. We're playing this end of the schedule,
right?
And we don't play them until that final part. So I kind of like that for the Bears.
Yeah,
you think or no?
I do. Can we do a quick talk about Beast Tour being down at Washington?
Oh, we love the Beast Tour.
All the storylines around this matchup of number 1 QB Caleb Williams, number 2 Jane Daniels, both teams riding an all-time high right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that game, and already it got flexed. Like, people who are going to be watching at home will get to listen to Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, hopefully be able to see Beast Tour on TV. But that's going to be one of the biggest games of the weekend, but hands down. I think it's going to be such a fun experience for everyone, because what we could be potentially seeing, this is not jumping the gun, but like this could be the next like young generation of quarterbacks where it's Mahomes, Allen, where you're in the same division, you're almost creating a potential rivalry.
Same conference, not division.
Sorry, same conference, but you're almost creating somewhat of a rivalry now because both these guys are absolute gamers, and you're going to see each other a lot more in meaningful games.
Well, and it comes to the conference too. The NFC, I think. The AFC, I feel like, has been dominant for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. All we've really had was the San Francisco 49ers. Detroit, I guess, you can throw in the mix there. But the AFC has been dominant for a while.
Yeah.
I think the tides are turning where the NFC is becoming way better than we thought they were. The only division I think is kind of hilarious is... oh, my God. The NFC East has looked miserable. Yes. That Washington is in the lead of that division. That's what scares me a little bit, is because... they want to hold that lead, let's be real. And the Bears are fighting to climb the North. They're winning the NFC East. That is hilarious. Dallas looks terrible. The Philly looks terrible. The Giants had no expectations, so let's be real. That is what it is. But they're still competitive in most games. They just beat Seattle, I think. Damn, that's wild.
I mean, how unafraid are you of the Eagles? With Nick Sirianni leading the charge, like that guy just seems like an absolute firecracker of a coach that no one enjoys playing for.
I don't even want to the Eagles look terrible. Yeah, I agree, but Dallas looks terrible too.
They do.
And I thought it was going to be a Philly Dallas battle. No, it's turned into Washington as their best team.
Yeah,
that's why it becomes so wild in my mind, because the NFL changes like in a flicker like that. It's insane.
It is. No, it is. And I mean, what's becoming now though is what we'll hopefully be seeing for the foreseeable future of this next generation of that quarterback coming in. And nothing against Jalen Hurts, it's just that I think Jane Daniels is an absolute gamer, but so is Caleb Williams. So like seeing those two guys be able to go up against each other each year, which would be awesome, is going to create such a fun environment between Washington and Chicago.
And I'm with you there 100%. And I love that the young quarterbacks are starting to make a move here, because the NFL has kind of become a problem, not a problem, but a rookie QB is what makes your team great, because you can pay other positions. And that's realistically what it is. But I'm just saying, the NFC East, and sorry, Josh Cleveland, if you're listening, Philly looks terrible. You got to accept it. It's just becoming something where you can only win. Like, they just paid Dak, they paid CD. Doing nothing. They paid Devonta, they paid... who's the other Philly receiver? I'm trying to blank right now.
Oh, A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown. Yeah. They paid... I mean, it's... money goes everywhere, and then all of a sudden, your team starts looking terrible. The Eagles used to have an elite defense. Now they look like trash.
Yeah.
It's just how the game goes. It's wild. And that's why it goes back to... I'm sorry, one more comment.
No, you're good.
That's why it goes back to, why would you trade for Max Crosby when you can build within with all these picks we got from the trade in 2023. It's like, why not?
Yeah. I do want to pivot quickly from NFC East conversation to the AFC South.
Okay.
That division is absolutely laughable. I mean, you have the Colts, you have the Tennessee Titans,
Jacksonville Jaguars,
Texans, who are like respectable, and then Jacksonville Jaguars.
How are the Texans respectable? They're terrible. Well, Levis, the Texans are terrible. Oh, I'm sorry, Titans are terrible.
I never said that. No, I said the Texans.
Oh, sorry.
But like that entire division outside of the Texans is so bad, because I mean, and we talked about this when we were on, I think, week 1, or maybe it was leading into the Colts game. Anthony Richardson is not an NFL quarterback. That guy is not good.
He's starting over Joe Flacco.
I know,
I thought they'd keep Joe.
Because and that's the reason where it's like you invest a ton of future assets into a guy like him who's done nothing in his entire college career and his high school career, and he has the build of someone that could be great, but he's one of the worst quarterbacks.
Do you think he's afraid to run as much as he did because of that injury in his shoulder?
It must be. He's not running at all. No, he is not.
No.
And if you're the Colts, though, it's like you're in a weird situation because you want to prioritize winning, but you also want to prioritize trying to develop him. And if you're developing him, then you're probably not going to be winning. But if you're playing Joe Flacco, then you know what you're going to get from him, and you'll probably win some ball games.
Talk about a good time to play this division, though, because outside the Texans, I pegged as a loss, but that's a good time to be playing some team. Hey, I guess, God, we lost the Colts too, though. So
I know,
maybe not.
But that was a disgusting game.
Yeah,
that was a disgusting game.
That was bad.
All right, let's get back to Bears talk.
No. Actually, you bringing up the AFC though, AFC North, Justin Fields being benched for Russell Wilson. We have to talk about it really quick. Justin, I think, has played admirably. But I don't hate that they're benching him. He's fumbled the ball, I think, 6 times. He's got 1 pick, so that's what I'm focusing on. He's turned the ball over a lot. He lost to Dallas on a game they should have won. Do you think they should be keeping Justin in? As a Bears fan.
Yeah.
I do love Justin, and I want him to.
I feel like Steelers have seen the same exact Justin that we saw in Chicago, where like he shows you flashes, but he's never straight up consistent. I am surprised that they're making this move when they're 4-2.
Right, I agree. When you're winning games, you should not be changing quarterbacks. Yeah, that makes no sense.
But the other flip side is, listen, we got both these guys. Like, if Russell isn't going to be performing at a high level, like, we know we'll get out of Justin, so we can always go back to him just in case something were to happen. But I am surprised because that's going to shake up the locker room in a sense. Because you don't know who the true leader is. And if they start losing a few games, everyone's going to be like, well, hold on. We were doing so well with Justin, which... Again, the defense was carrying the team during that vast majority of the time. Shout out Joe Cawley, who's a Chicago Bulls beat writer. That guy's the biggest troll of all time. But no, I am surprised that they are benching Justin Fields.
And the one thing I'll say on that is Mike Tomlin has been a fantastic coach, and I know everyone makes fun of him because he's just over 500, then does nothing. But he's won a Super Bowl, so I mean, you can't blame the guy.
You mean Russell?
What?
You mean Russell Wilson?
No, Mike Tomlin has won a Super Bowl.
Sorry, yes.
As a coach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's been over 500 his entire career, or 500 or over, and he's won a Super Bowl. Maybe he knows what he's doing, and I think it really ties back to the fact that the Bears get the 4th-round pick if Justin plays enough.
Yeah. And
I think maybe in the back of his mind he's thinking, Russ is good enough where we could play him, get to the playoffs, and not give the Bears that pick.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense or no?
It does. But you know what? I also think if you're playing... There's no way he's coaching in that philosophy. You know, it's kind of funny looking at like the Steelers' offensive weapons. They have George Pickens, they have Freiermuth, and then it's like, who else do they have? Which is, it's all.
Well, they got Harris, they got, and Gaffney will make fun of me for this one, but Jalen Warren,
but like
as a keeper.
But like receiver wise, they have nobody, which is it's hilarious because as a Bears fan, you saw yourself talking about that when Justin Fields was quarterback here. So it's almost like. The situations have just been completely flipped of like Justin has no weapons around him. He's been performing. He's been winning games. But it's like there really is. I mean, Pickens is an absolute just dog for a lot of reasons. But like it's surprising that they made that call for a guy like Russell, who you saw last year was just not
good. Not good. That's what. That's the most mind blowing part.
Where Justin's a game changer. So.
But looking at, I guess, the NFC North as a whole, though, so let's go back to the NFC. The Bears are standing right outside the playoffs at 4-2, which is kind of shocking because the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the NFC South has been actually delivering with those two teams. What do you think, realistically, the playoff picture looks like come time?
Yeah, I mean, I think between the Tampa Bay and between... who is the others?
Falcons.
The Falcons. I mean, both those squads' offenses are fun to watch. Like, I mean, you saw that on Thursday Night Football the other week.
One of the most fun Thursday night games I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, Baker is absolute balling out, and so is Kirk Cousins right now, too. So, like, between those two teams...
Darnell Mooney, Bear for life. He had a great game. That was awesome.
I don't think the East will. Maybe they'll get like one extra wild card spot, but you can't.
No, that's where it comes down to is the extra wild card.
Yeah.
Since what was that, 2021 or 2020?
Where they
added the
right?
spawn. Yeah.
But what I also think though too is like you look to the West, the Seahawks. I think they're going to start to fizzle out.
I agree.
I think it's really going to become the 49ers division because you're starting to see the Cardinals are not what people expected.
But they beat the 49ers, which in conference play is actually huge. Yeah. So that might come ugly corner. You never know.
Well, and the 49ers are also battling some serious injuries too. But I just think like that division is not it's not as competitive as what it has been in years past.
So what I want to ask you though is, do you think there's actually a legitimate shot that the NFC North sends 3 teams to playoffs? That's the real question coming up right now.
I think it's going to be really difficult to do that.
I agree. I completely agree because we're going to be battling, especially at the end of the year.
I think they get, including the division winner, they get 2 extras in. So the top 3 in the NFC North will get in. I think the 4th team will not get in.
I have to agree with that, just because what's going to happen in week 11 and beyond, it's going to be
it's going to be sabotaging your own self in a sense, where every team in that division, they're all going to face each other in this short, compacted 10-week span, and you're going to see maybe I think you'll get 3 NFC North and maybe 1 because there's 3 wild cards, right?
3 wild cards now.
Yeah, so I think you'll get then probably 1 extra NFC East.
Can I add on my hot take though about the Vikings though? I don't think they win the division.
No,
I don't think
they do either. I don't.
Justin Jefferson's fantastic. Sam Darnold looks good.
Yeah.
I think they hit a wall eventually.
Yeah.
The Bears though, what now? We're 4-2 at a bye week, so we can readjust our picks because I actually think we're exactly where we should be.
Yeah.
Based on what I initially called. What do you think they end up though?
I would say 10-7.
Still 10-7?
Yeah.
I'm with you, too, because that's exactly where I think we should be to be 10-7.
Yeah.
But the offense looks really good now.
Yeah. Well,
bad teams, I get it. The defense, though, has looked unbelievable, where I think maybe it might be a 12-5 team.
Yeah, and, well, here's the thing that makes me a little worried, too, is, like, early on in the season, you relied so much on the defense to carry you.
They did. They won week 1 because of the defense.
Well, I know, but the thing is, though, it's like the more and more you do that, it's the more pressure that's put on the defense's shoulders every single week. So you have to try and alleviate that as much as possible as you get into like this big gauntlet, because then the more balance you can have, the better you're going to be in a position to do so, because otherwise your defense is going to get worn out week over week.
I agree with that 100%, but every defense gets worn out week over week. And I think the Bears' offense being able to put up these points lately and going into a bye week has given them a rest they need.
100%.
And as long as we avoid a major injury, the Bears might be a top 5 defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think right now we're pegged as number 7 in yards per game. So shockingly, the Vikings are like top 3, which is I did not see coming. But
I heard I was listening to John Gruden Loves Football today, which if no one is aware, Gruden is back. Go on YouTube, look at John Gruden Loves Football, and he is unhinged. It's awesome. But he was showing a stat today that they, as in the Vikings, they blitzed the most on 1st and 2nd down. Like that defense, you are not, as an offensive lineman, you are not lining up against the same person every single play, because all they do is just rotate everyone and just kind of keep it more of a hybrid approach, and which makes it so hard to understand, like, what are they doing? Are they playing cover 2? Are they playing cover 3? What about cover 4? What are they doing? And that's Robert Flores, right? Like, he's their defensive coordinator up in Minnesota, which has just really been a complete game changer for teams as they're going up against that team.
And I think the Bears are doing the same thing, though, because you never know who's blitzing for the Bears. They've done a really good job with that exact concept.
Yeah.
But end of the day, I mean, what it really comes down to is how we do in the NFC North. And your final point we want to make here, what do you think the final rings are going to be in the NFC North?
I think the Lions end up winning it. I think the Vikings will hang on to be 2nd, and I think the Bears 3rd and Packers last.
So you think the Bears will make the playoffs?
I do.
I do too.
I do. What is yours?
I would say I think the Vikings are going to hit a wall. So I'm going to go Lions number 1, Bears number 2, Vikings number 3,
Packers 4. I love
I have
that.
to do it.
You have to.
It's a Bourbon Bear.
Yeah, of
but we're
course.
not here for Packers
No.
fans. And that's what it is. Sorry, Brett Matthews, but it's got to be what it is.
Who are your, so far on the Bears, your studs and your duds at this point?
I was actually going to go into the rookie ratings before that, but we'll take it now.
Yeah.
So, studs, Dexter. He
yeah.
has been the biggest stud we could have asked for. I'm going, I'll call a stud, what do you expect, overachieved.
Yeah.
Dexter, fantastic. Caleb, I would consider a stud, but not in
Your
more
expectation
than Dexter.
was,
It is what it is.
Yeah.
The punter from down under. Actually
Terry
worth
Taylor?
a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
I
He's a
swear to
game
God,
changer.
he's actually worth the 4th round pick.
Yeah.
I think Poles did a good job getting him.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, those are my studs. Oh, my dud. I'll give you my duds first. Duds, Austin Booker. I wanted more out of him.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
As a rookie?
As a rookie.
As a rookie, 5th
I had
round
a
pick.
lot of hype in him.
All right.
I hope if you watch this episode,
Yeah.
let that be your moment. The Bourbon Bear called you out.
That
be
is
better. If he's better,
unbelievable.
I'm gonna love this guy. I love this guy.
Yeah.
But I have to call him a dud right now. Other dud, I will say. I will say Jenkins.
Jenkins?
Yeah. Versus expectations, I mean, they have to do it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm not. Nate Davis, I had no expectations for.
Right.
So it's whatever.
Like you
I
saw
can't call him a
last
dud
year,
because I
yeah.
said he was a dud. So
Yeah.
whatever. I want him to be better. I'm calling the duds basically the people I want to be better.
Yeah. Which is fair.
And I think those are my only 2. The studs, though, I will give to. I mean, Caleb. I will give it to Braxton Jones. Deserves literally. He's been fantastic. Darnell Wright's been good. I guess another dud. I guess will be Mercedes Lewis for his offsides.
Yeah.
They're getting out of control. I respect him. He's a veteran. Been terrible. But I want to ask you though your rookie rankings though. So we'll start with every pick going down the line. Caleb Williams, give a grade.
Right now, 7.8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's not a grade, but okay.
But
And
that's
you
because
give a B
there's-
minus. You give a broad
Yeah.
range. You know?
Oh, you mean okay? So,
So-
you want the graded
Letter grade, letter
Yeah,
grade.
sorry. Okay, go on.
Caleb Williams.
B minus.
Wow.
Because
That high?
I think there's so much more room for improvement. We're going to continue to see it each week. So I'm going to give him a B minus right now.
I'd give him a B. I think B's fair. B minus might be a little harsh just how it was recently played. But
Yeah.
I'm with you. That's fair. He has the ceiling. He has to be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Establish. Roma Dunze.
I mean, I would say for him a B right now.
I'd give him a C.
A C.
Yeah.
I mean, each week he is progressing every single time, and I think it's.
But you're a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. We've seen stat lines that have been way better. And again, you're playing with T.J. Moore, Keenan
Yeah.
Allen. I don't think he's been that dominant. His yards per reception have been great, but I can't give him better than C.
compare his numbers against the other Marvin Harrison and Neighbors. Neighbors
They've got more touchdowns than him, I'll tell you that.
that's because they're also not playing with a rookie quarterback. They're playing with a veteran. So I think what you're seeing from Odunze is someone who's learning on the fly with also another guy who's giving him the ball that's learning on the fly. And so I would give him right now a B because he's also a person who is just each week getting so much better and becoming a professional.
Trust me, I have him way over 650 yards. So I want him to be way better.
Yeah.
But then we go to the offensive line, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm not going to bother.
The guy from Chicago.
No, he's from Yale.
Well, I know, but he grew up in Chicago. Yeah. He's a Chicago guy. Or Chicago.
He has not
suburbs,
played,
yeah.
so I can't give him a grade. So let's get that.
Well,
one.
he did get in the game last week.
Did he?
He got like a few snaps.
Okay. But I can't grade a few snaps, so
No, I know, but I would say he's someone though that you can know that he's a depth piece and someone that can be part of your future as you continue to move forward. So no grade, but just someone that you want to see him get those meaningful plays because it's going to help you out as you move forward.
All right, then we get a punter from down under.
Yeah. I mean,
A+. I'm giving A+.
I would.
Do you want to give an A?
I'll give him an A. He's been awesome.
I think he won us a game. So any punter you draft wins a game. I think
taking a kicker is